Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My goodness, boy. What drove me here was that thumbnail. Had my brother Bob Weir in the thumbnail. The most underrated rock guitarist. Hey, let's see who on this list. Let's see who shouldn't be. And let's see who they missed. Make sure you guys comment below. Shout out to the Grunge channel. I'm excited for this to see how many I actually know that I've listened to and how I feel if they're underrated or not. Shout out to all the good humans. Link is always in the description for those who are asking, man. We ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
Angus Young is one of the most famous and iconic guitar players in rock history. But was his brother Malcolm secretly the true creative?
I was finna say, I know they ain't talking about Angus. So his brother, I was finna say, not Angus.
Genius? Known as one half of the Grateful Dead's iconic guitar duo along with Jerry Garcia, Bob Weir has been active in the music industry since the Dead formed in the mid-1960s.
All the deadheads out there, what y'all think about that? Y'all think Bob is underrated? All right, I want to see what y'all got to say. Because I feel like he's not mentioned when you talk about the greats. So possibly. And when I say not mentioned, I'm saying like if you had to throw out your top 5 or 10, would he be on that list?
60s. In the nearly 6 decades since, Weir has played with a variety of bands, including as a solo act, as well as in the many post-Garcia iterations of the Grateful Dead. During his time in the Dead, Weir established himself as the ice to Garcia's fire, providing stealthy rhythm accompaniment to Garcia's blazing leads. Despite his fame and success, Weir has been perennially overshadowed almost his entire career by Garcia. Garcia's lead playing was always front and center compared with Weir's delicate rhythms, and for many, the Grateful Dead was really the cult of Garcia. Even after Weir and the remaining members reinvented themselves as Dead and Company, it seems like all of the attention goes to Garcia's replacement, John Mayer. Hopefully someday, Weir will get the spotlight and the recognition he truly deserves. When most people think of Aerosmith, 2 names usually jump to the forefront: Joe Perry and Steven Tyler. Often left behind is longtime guitarist Brad Whitford, who joined the band when they were just starting out and helped co-write several songs, including Last Child, Nobody's Fault, and Round and Round. In addition to his work with Aerosmith, Whitford has been featured on albums by legends like Joe Bonamassa and Ian Hunter. Whitford also has composing credits for several bands, including Van Halen among many others. While Perry and Tyler often receive the lion's share of the credit for Aerosmith, without Whitford, they would be a very different sounding band. In addition to his many composing credits, Whitford also plays lead on a number of tracks, with chops that rival even Perry's. His driving rhythms made Aerosmith the kings of rock for a time, and they have always been vital to the classic Aerosmith sound. Even though he is responsible for some of the most iconic and catchy guitar riffs of the 20th century.
Yeah, the last guy, I didn't know who that was. What his name? Brad Whitford? Yeah, I didn't know.
Not many people place the Doors' Robbie Krieger on their list of top guitarists. Krieger joined the Doors in their formative years and appeared on all of their albums. Without a bass player, Krieger was the only member to play a string instrument, but his innovative and groovy riffs more than filled the gap. During his career with the Doors, Krieger was often overshadowed by charismatic frontman Jim Morrison, and he is probably the most overlooked member of the entire band. Following Morrison's death in 1971, Krieger and the other members tried to keep the band going, which allowed Krieger to showcase some of his unique writing skills. Following the end of the Doors, Krieger embarked on a mildly successful solo career where he mixes together everything from rock and reggae to jazz.
Wow.
While most people only associate Krieger with the Doors, his solo work has earned critical praise from many corners. Krieger has certainly proven that he is more than a second fiddle to Morrison, and he deserves much more praise for his musicianship. In terms of outstanding rhythm guitarists in rock and roll, Paul Kantner is right at the
Yeah, again, it's a lot of like, I can know the band, but not the names of the member. Like it could be like the Doors, but as far as like I'll be watching doing a reaction, I'll be like, man, that guitarist is killing it, but I may not know them by the name, because Paul Kantner.
top of the list. As the rhythm player in Jefferson Airplane, which he helped found, Kantner provided outstanding songwriting and a steady, solid presence as part of the vanguard of the psychedelic music movement in the 1960s. His guitar playing was a big part of their early success and gave a unique edge to the burgeoning San Francisco sound they were helping to pioneer. After the Airplane dissolved, Kantner was part of its successor, Jefferson Starship, and he contributed many songs to the group's repertoire. He also co-wrote the Crosby, Stills and Nash song, Wooden Ships. Though he left Jefferson Starship for a few years in the 80s, Kantner rejoined them in the early 90s and continued to tour with them for another 2 decades. He died in 2016 from organ failure and septic shock following a heart attack.
Dang.
Though he never earned the accolades he deserved, Kantner's rhythm playing is some of the best in rock history. As the guitarist for The Police, many rock fans have known the music of Andy Summers for years. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, he played with acts as diverse as Eric Burdon and the Animals and Neil Sedaka. Summers joined The Police in the late 1970s, with whom he would earn several Grammys. The Police, though one of the most popular bands of the 20th century, had a short shelf life and disbanded after less than a decade. And while Sting and drummer Stuart Copeland are largely recognized as 2 of the greatest musicians in rock history, for some reason, the same accolades seem to escape Summers. And it's not as if Summers' career stopped at The Police. On the contrary, since their dissolution, he's put out some of his most creative and inventive music. During his solo career, which has spanned an incredible 15 albums, Summers has branched out to include many more jazz influences. Summers truly is a complete musician, and certainly not just Sting's former guitar player.
And I think what really worked musically for the Police was a drawing together of a lot of contemporary styles, punk, reggae, jazz, and bringing it all together.
Even though he has been active in the music industry for more than 3 decades, unless you have been following the jam band circuit, you likely aren't very familiar with Jimmy Herring.
So as of right now, I don't want to use the word big names, but like, you know, I'm just hoping, or I was thinking like it was going to be somebody who I knew by name. I mean, I feel Bob Weir could be considered underrated for sure. But everybody else, like I didn't know them by name. I'm waiting for somebody else I know by name.
Herring first made a name for himself in the late 1980s as the co-guitarist in Colonel Bruce Hampton's The Aquarium Rescue Unit. Herring is also known for his contributions to Jazz is Dead and for his multiple connections to the Grateful Dead universe. Herring took over duties for the departed Jerry Garcia during the Dead's incarnation as the Other Ones, and he also played in Dead bass player Phil Lesh's solo project, Phil Lesh and Friends, for several years.
Okay.
Since the mid-2000s, Herring has also served as the co-guitar player for mega jam band Widespread Panic. Given his incredible chops, it's unfortunate that more fans don't know Herring's name. Mike Campbell is one of the greatest, but also least recognized guitar players in rock and roll history. He is best known for being the rhythm guitarist in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers for their entire career. While guitarists have long revered Campbell's ability to play driving rhythms and the occasional solo, he always seemed to come in second to Petty with critics and mainstream audiences. It's understandable, considering Petty is one of the gods of rock and roll, but Campbell definitely is deserving of praise all his own. Besides his work with Petty and the Heartbreakers, Campbell has played with rock legends like Fleetwood Mac and Bob Dylan. He also wrote the music for the song The Boys of Summer, which Eagles drummer Don Henley recorded after Petty turned it down.
He had recorded it again in his home studio,
right.
So this was one that Petty had rejected.
He passed on this track.
Campbell also formed a band, Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs, in which he has played full-time since Petty's death. Over the years, Campbell has proven himself as a solid songwriter and steady rhythm player, and he can lay down a technical solo when the music calls for it. Known by many as a musician's musician, Robert Fripp has undeniably been one of the most unique talents in rock and roll since the 1960s, when his idiosyncratic guitar methods helped his band King Crimson become one of the progenitors of the modern progressive rock movement. His guitar lines mixed rock with jazz and even some classical stylings to create a wholly new type of music. He was the only consistent member of King Crimson during their long history, mixing and matching different musicians over the years to fit his sounds. Fripp's work is not just limited to King Crimson, though, as he has
let y'all know I had reacted to them a long time ago and they had got blocked, but I enjoyed it so much, King Crimson.
Released a ton of solo albums and appeared as a guest on other works. Fripp is one of the most technically gifted players in rock history, and in both 1997 and 2004, Fripp was invited on the famous G3 tour to play alongside fellow guitar legends Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. And even in his late 70s, Fripp is still pushing the envelope of his guitar skills.
And right now I'm working hard on learning a repertoire I haven't had the good fortune of being able to play before.
As one of the co-founders of AC/DC, guitarist Malcolm Young lived and breathed rock and roll every day. Malcolm founded the band with his younger brother Angus in Australia in the 1970s, and they soon rose to become one of the biggest international acts in all of rock. However, even though Malcolm was often described as the creative force behind the band's success, Angus always garnered much more attention. This was mainly due to Angus playing all of the guitar solos, as well as his penchant for dressing up like a schoolboy for his energetic performances. Yet, without Malcolm, AC/DC would never have risen to the heights they did, and Angus would not have had the platform to become the rock god he is widely recognized as. Together, the two wrote the vast majority of AC/DC songs, including most of their biggest hits, and Malcolm became known as one of the steadiest rhythm players in rock. Young died in 2017, 3 years after retiring from the band due to dementia, though he stayed with the band as long as he possibly could. Lead singer Brian Johnson told 730,
Malcolm started to rehearse the songs that he'd played for 30 years, every day.
I always forget they have the accent. Boy, I wonder how much cartilage is left in Angus Young knees, because, boy, them things be moving. Because I know if my knees are bad, his, boy, he might have to get a cortisone shot or something before he performed, because he be going, man.
Before he did a show.
And
his dedication.
Upon his death, tributes poured in from some of the biggest names in rock. A Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Malcolm definitely has a place on the Mount Rushmore of rock rhythm guitarists. Rock and roll has long been known as a boys' club, and lamentably, only a few women have managed to break past the paper.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I love her guitar playing. Tedeschi. Oh, okay. All right.
Patriarchal paradigm and misogyny of the rock world. One of them is Susan Tedeschi, and despite her being an amazing guitar player and songwriter, she is regularly overlooked in favor of less talented male guitarists. Tedeschi began her career at the age of just 13, and she released her first solo album with her blues band in 1995, which was re-released in 1998. She earned her first of 7 Grammy nominations the following year for Best New Artist.
Man.
She is also married to guitar legend Derek Trucks, and together they formed the Tedeschi Trucks Band, winning a Grammy in 2012 for their debut album, Revelator. Tedeschi plays a distinct brand of blues rock that also incorporates elements ranging from R&B to soul. She has been one of the top acts in blues rock for more than 20 years, and hopefully she will start to be recognized as the guitar goddess she is. For many people, Carrie...
What do y'all think about that? Because, I mean, she's really good. But when you consider guitarist, do you, like, put her name in there? You know what I mean?
Livgren provided the soundtrack to the 1970s. They just don't know it. As a member of Kansas, Livgren penned classics like Carry On Wayward Son and Dust in the Wind, 2 of the biggest rock and roll hits of the decade. He was one of the founders and played with the band until their initial breakup in 1983. After Kansas, Livgren formed a new band, AD, which embraced Christian themes but had little commercial success. Still, the music showcased Livgren's innovative and unique songwriting abilities. Kansas reformed years later, and in 2000, Livgren was once again the primary songwriter for their album, Somewhere to Elsewhere. Besides his work in AD and Kansas, Livgren has also released several solo albums, starting with Seeds of Change in 1980. Still, it's his work with Kansas that will forever be immortalized as some of the best guitar playing in rock history, even though he has never received the accolades given to other major rock guitarists. A large man of imposing stature, guitarist Leslie West first came to mainstream attention in 1970 when his band Mountain released their debut album, Climbing. The album included the now iconic rock anthem, Mississippi Queen, which featured West's thunderous vocals and guitar playing. The band, partly named for West's huge size, had played at the legendary music festival Woodstock the year before, cementing their legacy in rock history. After Climbing, West would release a few more albums with Mountain and as a solo artist, but he never again experienced the commercial success that Mississippi Queen gave him. Still, West was one of the best under-the-radar guitarists of the last few decades, and many prominent guitarists like Eddie Van Halen have praised his abilities. Interestingly, it seems like many rappers and hip-hop artists are fans of West's work, and his music has been extensively sampled by huge acts including Kanye West, Jay-Z, and A$AP Rocky. Sadly, West died in 2020 from cardiac arrest. His legacy is forever tied to Mountain and Mississippi Queen, but he contributed so much more to rock and roll during his career.
Rest in peace, brother. Hey, what a great video. I can't wait to see the comments because I feel like a lot of y'all know, because y'all grew up with this music, so y'all know. Y'all may not see them as being underrated. Maybe, I don't know. But a lot of them, I know the songs, the band, but didn't know their name. Does that make them underrated? I don't know. Because it is a lot of great guitars out there. A lot. You know, just right off the top of the head, Stevie Ray Vaughan. You know, well, rest in peace. I'm talking about dead or alive. I'm talking about like when you really mention the greats. And I do this with sports too. You know, where do you have them on the list? That's the question. I feel like with guitarists, like a lot of people like to do your top 10, but I think with guitarists, it's like you do your top 20, and then after that, it's like, because it's a lot of greats. And then, you know, you have some guitarists that just play and they don't sing. But then you have the ones that sing and play. So, you know, you got to consider that too. Then you got the ones who may write the music. So, hey, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I can't wait to see these comments, man. Again, shout out to the Grunge channel for the video. Thank y'all for coming over and watching, man. Please comment below. Yeah. Peace out.